Welcome, Mr. Manish.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Namaskar.
sir.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
All right, Pramod.
Sir, shall we start?
Yeah, it's exact 16 hours.
Okay. Yes. We will
So
start.
let's begin.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Shall I start, sir?
Now, Pramod will
No,
start.
yes. Good evening, everyone. It's a great
evening,
pleasure. Good evening. It's a great pleasure. Just let me. It's a great pleasure to share with you that Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature is celebrating today 31st event of Sunday Literary Satsang. Today's satsang to be delivered by Manish Prasad on post-colonial translation, the translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan, I'm sure will be insightful and enriching for all of us. Today, I take this opportunity to warmly welcome Dr. G.A. Ghanshyam sir, founder and general secretary of ISPEL, Dr. Jyoti Patil, president of ISPEL, today's honorable resource person, Manish Prasad sir, writer and translator, assistant professor of English, ICFI University, Tripura, Dr. Madhu Kamra, former head, Department of English, Durga Mahavidyalaya, Raipur, who is to chair this session. Dr. A.S. Puamma, Principal and Associate Professor of English, Kaveri College, Virajpet, Kodagu, as Master of Ceremonies. Ms. Amini Devangan as moderator, and all our esteemed participants, welcome you all. To begin with, it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Yamini Devangan, TGT in English at Kendriya Vidyalaya, Shahjahanpur. She is one who has preserved her interest in music and literature, a fine balance of words and music. And she is a postgraduate both in Sitar and English from Prayag University, Prayagraj. She also works for All India Radio Raigad as announcer. She is in the advisory committee of Sri Chakradhar Sangeet Mahavidyalaya and organizes workshops on personality development for students and employees. ISPEL feels privileged to have such a member as moderator. Welcome, Amini ma'am. Over to you, please.
Thank you
Amini
so
ma'am.
much, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all learned guests and literature lovers. Today, as we all know,
Just a minute, Yamini. Just a
Yes,
minute.
Yes.
May I
Yes, sir.
request others to kindly mute themselves, please? Yeah, carry on.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all learned guests and literature lovers. Today, as we all know, is the 31st Literary Satsang of ISPEL, and I, Yamini, feel privileged to welcome you all among us. Before starting the webinar, I want to let you know about ISPEL. Many of us are very familiar with this ISPEL, but I don't want to miss this wonderful chance to say about it from my side. ISPEL is a society established with a motto, facilitate to elevate the taste and bliss in the field of English language and literature. Considering emerging trends in the field, it is the need of our to blend the trends and mend the minds. ISPEL is the people's platform to share and impart expertise of renowned academicians and of its members to the fraternity and the stakeholders. The society believes that one can improve and elevate his or her abilities once opportunities are made available. Potential is always there. The need is to bring it out from the margin to the center. Conducting webinar in this critical environment gives a hope and reason to smile and survive. All credit goes to most diligent chairperson of ISPEL, especially founder R. Ghanshyam sir. मिट्टी का तन, मस्ती का मन, क्षण भर जीवन मेरा परिचय. A body of clay, a mind full of play, a life of moment, that's me. These are the words from Mr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan, and we all are familiar with today's topic, post-colonial translation, the translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Dr. Bachchan was a student of the renowned English literature don, Thomas Rice, and to know a lot more, we have today's session, and to host this session, we have our host, Dr. A.S. Puvamma ma'am, Principal Kaveri College, Kodagu. I feel privileged to introduce her as Master of Ceremony, as she is former coordinator of IQAC Kaveri College, Gonikoppal, member of BOC University, Bangalore, former president of Rotary International and member of several literary associations. She has published many poems and short stories, and also honored by New Karnataka Excellence Award as Best Lecturer in English. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Ma'am Puvamma, our Master of Ceremony. Ma'am, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Yamini. I'm delighted to be part of the Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, initiated by Professor Ghanshyam, Director of Higher Education, Raipur, Chhattisgarh. I'm extremely happy to be an active participant of ISPEL's Literary Sunday Satsang. ISPEL promotes knowledge of and scholarly interest in the languages, cultures, and literatures of India in English. This is a befitting platform to facilitate and elevate the members and participants of the ISPEL organization. ISPEL is a 12-member wise men organization headed by Professor G.A. Ghanshyam, the founder and general secretary of ISPEL, doing a lot of intellectual churning by way of conducting e-seminars for the lovers of language and literature. I take this opportunity to congratulate Professor Ghanshyam, all the respected members of the ISPEL, a literary association, for all the great work you all have been doing during the pandemic time. I treat this opportunity as an honor to welcome all the erudite speakers, members of ISPEL, and all the participants to the 31st Literary Sunday Satsang. And I wish every one of them a great learning experience in today's discourse on post-colonial translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Translation focuses on the translator's role from taking a source text and turning it into the one in another language, but also concentrates on the specific product created by the translator. Translation studies is an academic discipline which studies the theory and practice of translation. There are different translation techniques, diverse theories about translation, and different types of translation as well. What distinguishes post-colonial approaches to translation is that they examine intercultural encounters in contexts marked by their strengths as well as their weaknesses. Their major contribution has been to eliminate the role over power in the product and reception of translation. But it is not certain that the post-colonial framework can be applied to other interlingual exchanges in the minimal inequality of power relations. I think today's key speaker, Mr. Manish Prasad, will delve deep into these issues on post-colonial perspectives in translation studies, with a special focus on the translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan, and enlighten us, broadening our horizon on the theories of translation studies. Mr. Manish Prasad is a writer and a translator. His translations and articles have been published in various reputed journals. At present, he is serving as an assistant professor of English at the Ekwa University, Tripura. He is also a PhD research scholar at the Department of English, Kazi Nazrul University, Asansol, West Bengal. He is working on the translations of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan. He was invited as a subject expert on translation studies by NTM and Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysuru. And he was also invited for BCLT Summer School Workshop. His research paper is referred by various scholars and researchers of translation studies. His area includes translation studies, cultural studies, Indian philosophy, and Mahatma Gandhi. It gives me immense pleasure, and I consider it an honor to present before you such a vibrant young scholar as our keynote addressee on this great 31st event of iSpell. We have with us Dr. Madhu Kamra, a former head of the Department of English, Durga Mahavidyalaya, Raipur, as the chairperson of the e-seminar on post-colonial translation. She was a NAC coordinator at Durga Mahavidyalaya, Raipur. She has done doctoral degree in English, and also she has completed her Doctor of Philosophy in Stylistics as well. She has an illustrious experience of teaching English for 35 years, along with 3 books being published and 1 in the press yet to be published. She has guided and supervised 14 PhD scholars and has been a referee for PhD to various institutions and universities. It gives me great pleasure to present before you Dr. Madhu Kamra, who will, in conclusion, deliver her perspectives and overall views on the post-colonial translation, the translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan, after listening to the great scholar in translation studies. May I now request Mr. Manish Prasad to take over and proceed with the discourse. Over to Mr. Manish.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm very much honored and thankful that I have given this platform to be a keynote speaker for iSpell. From the time the iSpell Satsang has begun, I have been part of it. I was really enjoying the lectures which was delivered through these modes, and was really happy rather that I got the chance to present myself for today and with my research topic and the area of my research. So I'm very much thankful, first of all. And now I would like to share my screen for the PPT and for the presentation without making any further.
Sir, can you please keep your mic a little bit closer to your mouth?
Okay, sure. Is it fine now, sir?
A little bit more, sir. The audio.
Yeah. Is it fine, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. Now, this is the topic for today's presentation as a speaker in post-colonial translation, the translation theory of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Now, as the teachers have already discussed, right? I would like to call you as teacher because I'm very much younger to you all, ma'am. So now, as you have already begun with post-colonial translation, in a little bit, in a nutshell, I would try to elaborate first with why I chose Bachchan altogether, right? Now, ma'am, it was in 2016 when I was just a MS student, right? That time, urge came to my mind that why Bachchan is so important in one of my lectures when I was listening to my teacher, right, in the class. Now, that time when I went to my teacher and asked, sir, why you have told something in Bachchan? Please try to elaborate it. And then he referred to me, Dr. Ajit Kumar. Now, Dr. Ajit Kumar is a famous poet and critic and translator, and who was also the student and friend of Bachchan. Okay. And according to my teacher, he had his conversation with Ajit Kumar himself once, and he told there is a need for scholarly work on the translations of Bachchan. Now, why all at a sudden Bachchan? Because Bachchan translated into Hindi some of the major English dramatists, poets, namely William Shakespeare, Edward Fitzgerald, and W. Yeats, who belong to the so-called important eras, the Elizabethan, Victorian, and modern. So I thought, Kerry, these are the texts I have already read in my class. So why not to think more on these things, right? So all these writers belong to the different periods of English history and help in justifying their master narrative of Western Eurocentric discourse. Now, this is something as a master student, we all always come across key what is master narrative, what is Western Eurocentric discourse. So I found that by translating these major English writers and poets, Bachchan as a translator accomplishes the post-colonial mode of critic. Okay, and as suggested by Bill Ashcroft alongside Harish Trivedi and Susan Bassnett. So from this point itself, ma'am, it came to my mind that I should begin my research on the translations of Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan. And most importantly, ma'am, Hindi is my mother tongue, although I belong to West Bengal itself. So I thought that I should do something for my Hindi language itself when I'm doing to do research on it, right? So now this is the topic, the translation theory of Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Ma'am, I would like to begin my today's speech with his signature itself, ma'am. Ma'am, see, Bachchan has a unique signature and it appears like a drawing itself, right? Now, actually, ma'am, it was an impact of W.B. Yeats. Ma'am, I hope you know that W.B. Yeats, he began his career as a poet. Now, Bachchan was also under his impact because a major portion of his life he has devoted on his writings itself, on studying his works itself. So that is the one impact of W.B. Yeats you can find directly through his signature. And the other impact was that, ma'am, during his childhood days, right, Bachchan began his career as a poet. Now, before joining school, ma'am, since he was from Prayagraj itself, he had two tutors. Now, one was a Maulvi and the other was a priest, right? Now, Maulvi, when he came, he began to teach him Persian and Urdu poets. Whereas the Pandit, he came only once and never came back to teach him. Now, his primary education began with Persian and Urdu poets. And that is why, ma'am, throughout his writing, you will find a direct impact of Persian and Urdu. Although he writes that after he got admitted in school, there was no more any need for Persian and Urdu because that time English replaced those languages. But indirectly, or you can say unconsciously, he had direct relation with this language itself, and it made a huge impact in his translation. Now, Bachchan first translated the Fitzgerald's Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam into Hindi. But before coming directly into his translated works, I think that it's very important to know what was Bachchan's approach regarding translation. Now, he says that, he writes rather in his essay, The Problem of Translation, he writes that the knowledge that is present in one part of the globe, to make it available in another part, translation help is often taken. But even the significant thing is that since people across the world have become closer to each other, they must understand each other's soul. Now, if any country's or community's soul is not present in their literature, then where can it be found? It's very obvious. So he says that if we want to understand English people, we need to understand Shakespeare. Now, to understand the Indians rather, one needs to understand Tulsidas. Now, in this way, it is very essential to translate the text of a particular language into another. Now, the line which with Yamini ma'am has begun her proceedings, that Matti Katan, Masti Kaman, Charman Jivan, Mera Parichay. Now, these are obviously the introductory line with which Harivansh Rai Bachchan is introduced in the forum of literary circle. But Bachchan is no less important a literary critic than a poet, ma'am. He translated works like a connector. His translation works like a connector in joining the poetic self of Bachchan to his critic self, right? Now, how it is so? Now let's come to the House of Wine. Now, Bachchan translated Fitzgerald's House of Wine, the Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam, in his own mother tongue in the year 1935 as Khayyam Ki Madhushala. He opines that it was the very failure of Indians' protest against the British that prepared the setting for his translation of Fitzgerald's Omar. In the 1930s, there was a huge crisis of thought among the Indians regarding their freedom. The arrest of Indian revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and some other political leaders, the captivity of Mahatma Gandhi, just after his return from the second roundtable conferences, challenged the beliefs and faith of nationalism. Now, what is going to happen next if all the leaders are no leader is there in front of us? So what will be happening with our independence, right? So this at that time, ma'am, in different languages, Fitzgerald's Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam, or directly the poems or the rubais written by Umar Khayyam from Persian, it was translated in different languages, and Bachchan was no exception, right? So Bachchan, like other poets, that also found its echo in Fitzgerald. Now, why it is so? Why Fitzgerald only? Why Bachchan took Fitzgerald, ma'am? There is a very interesting, ma'am, in Colonial Transaction, if you go through that book, Harish Trivedi, he's the writer of that book, and he devotes a whole chapter in order to introduce Bachchan Ki Madhushala. And there, ma'am, he writes that actually Bachchan wanted to go to Fitzgerald, to the Rubais of Umar Khayyam. But he had forgotten Persian altogether because he had learned that language during his childhood. Now, by that time, Fitzgerald's The Rubaiyat of Umar Khayyam was only the authentic translation available in English. And since he knew English, he was a student of masters in English itself, ma'am. So he translated that text into Hindi. And most importantly, ma'am, he translated all the 75 verses into Hindi as Khayyam Ki Madhushala. But again, we have one more Madhushala, which becomes famous, that is Bachchan Ki Madhushala, right? And in the preface of Bachchan Ki Madhushala, he writes that, in his preface, he writes that he has not been satisfied with his earlier translation. His beliefs and feelings for his motherland did not find a complete expression in his Madhushala. Therefore, like Umar, he takes up wine bearer, and cup to speak about nationalism and to express his concerns of humanism, right? So these are the things which actually made Bachchan to retranslate his works into Hindi as Bachchan Ki Madhushala, ma'am. And ma'am, most importantly, he translated the whole text into Hindi in just 7 days. And that is very important. Ki Bachchan Ki Madhushala, we all listen, right? We all, wherever you go, you will listen to Bachchan Ki Madhushala. But very few know that the poems were all translated or rewritten in just 7 days. So that is very important. Now, man noted in Omar's Rubai, wine is a symbolic of the spirit, the cup, the receptacle of powers, poured out in service, bread, the divine mind or food from heaven, bulbul or nightingale, the symbol of the soul in the darkness of hidden depths of man's own being. Now, these signifiers into a new system of signification. Now, Bachchan put this thing in a new way in order to recreate his Bachchan Ki Madhushala. Now, after writing Madhushala, he wrote 2 more texts, and these are Madhubala and Madhukalash, right? Now, Bachchan's Madhushala seems to have the same Sufi tone as he has in Madhubala and Madhukalash at the same time. Bachchan's Madhushala is not only about nationalism, freedom, and independence of India. It speaks about the whole humanity, ma'am. For example, ma'am, as I have told now itself, during the pre-independence crisis, people were having the feeling कि अरे अब क्या होगा, अब तो इंडिपेंडेंस नहीं मिलने वाला है, सारे जो लीडर्स हैं वो तो जेल में चले गए हैं या तो अंग्रेजों के द्वारा पकड़ लिए गए हैं. So what will happen? Now here Bachchan comes into important thing. He says that the crisis is always temporary. His humanism is all about that man is a fighter, human being is a fighter. So he can overcome any problem that will come in his life. Since this humanism is there in his poetry. His Madhushala has become very famous. Right now, this is a Madhushala number 32 from Bachchan itself, and I would like to recite. So I hope you all will enjoy it. अधरों पर हो कोई भी रस, जिह्वा पर लगती आला, भोजन को हो कोई हाथों में, लगता रखा है प्याला, हर सूरत साकी की सूरत में परिवर्तित हो जाती, आंखों के आगे हो कुछ भी, आंखों में है मधुशाला. Now see, ma'am, these magical transmutation, okay, of the variegated objects into the chosen signifier, for example, hala, pyala, saki, and madhushala, speaks out very clearly of the poet's overarching humanism. Now, what is translation? Now, according to Jeremy Munde, the translation study scholar, he writes that the process of translation between two different written languages involves the changing of an original text in the original verbal language into a written text, or into a different verbal language, that is target language, right? So this is all about translation in short. Now, what is post-colonial translation? Now, the concept of translation as it is prevalent in India is the result of Indians coming in contact with the European epistemology concept of translation. Ma'am, before the term translation, we have Anubad or Rupantar. We didn't have the word called translation. It was only with the Britishers came in India, we have the coming in of translation practice, okay, which brought the concept of the originals and the anxiety of authenticity. So this is very important. Okay. Now, for them, translation was an inferior activity and used to consider the colony itself as a form of translation. But here you will find, ma'am, there is a double-edged politics. Now, there is a politics? Because they were calling the translation as something inferior. But you will find that there were different British intellectuals who were themselves practicing this translation, right? Now, they supported that thing in a different way. They said that the English writers who are translating the poets of the East, they are giving a new soul to them, because according to them, the poets who are there in the East, they are hardly a poet. For example, you take the example of Fitzgerald. As Harish Trivedi in his book Post-Colonial Translation, page number 13, he writes that during that time in the 19th century, the British intellectuals, they were not ready to accept anything East as good, as up to mark, right? So what they did, the British poets, for example, Fitzgerald, he translated that Persian poet into English and made the remark that it is because of the English soul, the Persian poetry has become live again. And in this way, the translation done by Fitzgerald, it is actually speaking about the Victorian crisis, right? Now, Bachchan took this aspect of Victorian crisis, that how Fitzgerald, by translating Omar Khayyam's Rubais, is speaking about Victorian crisis. In the same way, by translating that very text into Hindi, he can also speaks about the Indian crisis. So this was the reason why he selected Fitzgerald's The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Right. Now, to come to post-colonial translation, and then I will try to connect it again with Harivansh Rai Bachchan. One of the major aspects of post-colonial translation is to critique the double-edged politics of the West. That is, how they prove their language is superior to the East, and how they support this notion of Western master narrative. Now, since we are talking about an Indian poet, the context should be Indian as well. Now, what is post-colonial translation in the Indian context? Now, to quote Harish Trivedi in from his essay, The Politics of Post-Colonial Translation, he says that the major change in the post-colonial translation is that it is more oriented towards the culture of the target language. Okay, means we are looking more towards our own culture, how we can upgrade ourselves, right? Now, Western authors were not merely translated for the love of their language. That means we are translating Shakespeare not because we love Shakespeare, we love the English language itself. Why we are translating? We are translating actually that we love our own language. Now, in order to promote our own language, okay, in order to give something more, what we do have to do, we have to incorporate something more. Now, translation is also a creative activity, as we all know, ma'am. So that is how the thing begins. Another aspect of post-colonial translation studies is to show the cultural plurality of source linguistics into TLT. Now, Bachchan, as the native translator of English linguistics, followed this method of post-colonial translation much more before the arrival of the theory of foregrounding the mother tongue. So this is the unique place you will find in the translations of Bachchan, right? Now, one of the major aspects, many aspects of post-colonial translation, though certainly not the only one, question against the Western Eurocentric discrimination between English and other languages of the world. Now, this becomes more problematic when the translator's visibility is kept aside. Now, normally, ma'am, you will find na, ki if you look at the politics involved is Nobel Prize, ma'am. Now, Edith Grossman, ma'am, in his book Why Translators Matter, in page number 28, he writes that ki it is a politics which always goes on with Nobel Prize. Now, the person whose texts are available in English, that person can only get the Nobel Prize because the members or the selectors in the advisory committee, they most of them they know the English language. Now see, ma'am, how we have no choice rather to promote English, right? Now in that case, what is happening? The translators visibility is kept aside. Now, translators' invisibility and the scandal of translation are the flip sides of the same coin. Now, what do we mean by the scandal of translation? It means marginalization of translation, okay, by the hegemonic powers of the West, which is at three levels: cultural, economic, and political. Now, in this way, the marginalization happens. For example, ma'am, uh, in India during the 19th century, there were many scholars who were translating Shakespeare's works into regional languages. For example, in Hindi, there were many who were translating Shakespeare's works into Hindi, but they were not getting any recognition. Why? Because for them, regional language is not at par with the English. So that is why that is of no importance. It was only when the post-colonial as a reading strategy, as a theoretical approach came together with translation, that then those translators and their work began to get recognition, right? For Venuti, it is the English language which acts as a vehicle of marginalization, because one of the most translated language and one of the least translated into. So that is why English has played a major role in marginalizing other languages. Now, Bachchan breaks this aspect of translators' invisibility and the scandal of translating by translating Fitzgerald twice as Omar Khayyam's twice, and earns his name both as a translator and a poet and as the writer of Madhushala. Now, uh, after discussing this theory that how Bachchan has translated Fitzgerald, right, and how he has done so, I would like to elaborate a bit on others' translations itself, and that is W.B. Yeats, the work he published next. Now, as I have told ki ma'am, Harivansh Rai Bachchan is the first Indian, okay, is arguably the first Indian who did his PhD from Cambridge University on W.B. Yeats. Now, he began his PhD in India, but for some reason, it was not taken, or he was not successful. Now, again, in the year 1952, he got the chance and went to Cambridge and did his PhD. And there, the topic of his research was W.B. Yeats and occultism. And this was done under the supervision of Professor T.R. Henn and also Graham Hugh. Now, after doing his research, okay, when Bachchan came back to India, in the year 1965, to celebrate the birth centenary of W.B. Yeats, Bachchan published his PhD research thesis and his translation of W.B. Yeats' 101 poems under the title Markadvip Kasar. Now, you one must be wondering ki, why Markadvip Kasar? What it is? Markadvip? It sounds something interesting, right? Now, ma'am, Ireland, ma'am, ki Ireland, miss, I didn't mention one thing, that I was also invited for Sligo workshop for W.B. Yeats' poetry in the year 2018. Now, ma'am, if somebody goes to Ireland, the other name of Ireland is Emerald Island, ma'am. Emerald, why it is called? Because if somebody goes there, he will find that, he or she will find that Ireland, it is a green country. Means everywhere you will find that the environment itself is very green. Even the color of the train on the vehicle, they all are greenish, right? Now, Emerald in Hindi, it is called Markat. Markat, right? And island, it means deep and dweep. And Swar, according to Bachchan, W.B. Yeats' poetry is all about the soul of Irish people itself, Irish culture itself. So that is why he selected the title Marko Dvipaswar for his translation. Right. Now, let's come to his translation of William Shakespeare. Now, ma'am, Bachchan, he's the first translator who translated the 4 tragedies of Shakespeare into Hindi in poetic prose. Right. Now, before him, the translations of Shakespeare were available, but they were not available in poetic prose translation. Right. Now, to make it, Bachchan had his own theory, right? And he made his own decision in order to translate the 4 tragedies of Shakespeare, right? And these are, there must be focus on the translation of thought rather than words. Poetic dialogue must be translated into poetic prose, and prose dialogue into prose form. Now, translation must not, it should be done in such a way that it could be performed in front of the audience. And most importantly, translation must not appear as translation. It should have the purity of source language text. And ma'am, when Bachchan performed in front of the audience, and the audience were Jawaharlal Nehru, Prithviraj Singh, Prithviraj Kapoor, and Indira Gandhi, and others. And when he performed Othello, right? Amitabh Bachchan, he played the role of Iago, right? And this was the first performance he did. So that is very important to understand the theories of Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Now, what is the importance of translation, right? Since in this speech, I'm talking through and throughout about translation. So translation and creative writing are not 2 separate entities. They are the flip sides of the same coin. If Bachchan's creative writings are taken as the photographic description of his life and experiences, in translation can be taken as the negative of those photographs. So we understand Bachchan as a poet, but we forgot that he is also a translator, and translation for him is like an apprenticeship. Okay, so without translation, there is no Bachchan, because his first recognition as a poet got through his translation. And for elaborate, okay, one may go through his collection of poems, that is Jal Samhita, okay, which he published the later stage of his poetic career, okay. And you will find that how Fitzgerald and W.B. Yeats, their translation makes, or has rather has made a deep impact on his poetry, in his own poetry. Now, Omar's poems speaks about the importance of youth in the Carpe Diem note, as I told, from morning to evening, right? Whereas W.B. Yeats is also voice for the tension between youth and old age. Now, hence, these 2 thoughts appear together in the poems. Now, how it appears, let's see. Now, this is again a translation, okay, of W.B. Yeats' poem. Now, how he translates this poem, and then we will go with the comparison and then the analysis. मैंने सोचा था कि जवानी कायम रखने को दंबल मुकद्दर काफी है, यह तंदुरुस्त रखेगी तन को। हाय, किसी ने पहले क्यों ना बताया, मन भी वृद्ध हुआ करता है। Now you will find the same thoughts of old age recurring in his poem Old Farmer. Now this Old Farmer, Budha Kisan, which was published in Jal Sameta, is his own creation, right? Now see how diverse the thought of old age is in this poem. अब समाप्त हो चुका मेरा काम, करना है बस आराम ही आराम। अब ना खुरपी ना हसिया ना पुरवट ना उसे मैंने जोत बो अश्रु स्वेद रक्त से सींचा, निकाला खलिहान के खलिहान पाटा। अब मौत ले जाएगी मेरी मुट्ठी से क्या ठेंगा। Now here in the translation of Yeats, we can note that there is an urge of maintaining, right, the position of youthful possibilities, and the speaker takes recourse to Dumble and Mugdha. But he forgets that no matter how well he tried to retain his body as powerful and try wholeheartedly to endure and maintain the same vigor of youth, but he forgets that a sadness and negligence comes to him when he understands that the old age is also a mental stage. One only doesn't becomes old by physics, it is also his mental stage. So no matter how much one tries to keep the body fit, he cannot surpass the mental dilemma of the old age. But you will see in the Old Farmer, Bachchan again speaks about the same old age, but you will find that the tension between old age and youth is not present. He is actually accepting that old age with the spirit, right? So life helps in reinvigorating the spirit of old age for him. Okay, and here in this poem, in his own poem, you will find what? Okay, there is an acceptance on his path of life and challenge of death. So in other words, there is a celebration of old age. So you see, ma'am, there is a mixture of both the old age and youth in his own poetry. Now, to conclude my today's speech, okay, see, post-colonial is a reading strategy, right? And it is a theoretical approach in order to criticize the Western Eurocentric discourse and Western master narrative. Right? Now, translation is also taken as one such post-colonial reading approach. Okay, translation as a practice shapes, as Niranjana writes, and takes shapes within the asymmetrical relations that operate under colonialism. Thus, the central interaction, as ma'am has told at the very beginning, the central interaction of translation and post-colonial theory is that of power relations. And in the translation theory of Harivansh Rai Bachchan, one will find in detail how the things are happening, right? So in this way, I would like to conclude my today's speech. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on Bachchan's translation theory. Although I have told in short about Bachchan's in relation with W.B. Yeats and Shakespeare, and it's not in that way I have elaborated as I have done with Fitzgerald, but in future, if I get again an opportunity from ISFL, the such and recognized and well-renowned this forum, I will definitely try to elaborate more on translation and form with how Bachchan processed with W.B. Yeats and then Shakespeare. Thank you, ma'am. What do you, ma'am?
Yeah, Pushpa ma'am, you can take up the questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. It was, as I had already mentioned, in your presentation, you have made it clear what distinguishes post-colonial approaches to translation. And that is, they examine intercultural encounters in contexts marked by unequal power relations. And how in your Bachchan's translation, what I thought was like, it looked more like the source language than the text that's being translated into. You know, his concept of youth. What poem was that? I forget now. You read out the translation right now.
Yeah, ma'am.
So I felt it looked rather original in its thought, rather than it's being translated from W.B. Yeats. But it's a real wonderful information for us that Harivansh Rai Bachchan actually first made an attempt to look at W.B. Yeats and really translated his works. That's an excellent thing that he has done, where he could also showcase the power struggle between the colonizer and the colonized after the post-colonial writing, what I mean to say. Don't you think so?
Yeah, ma'am, I do think so. And that's why I told ki if I get another opportunity, I would like, because ma'am, in one forum, I cannot express everything in detail, because for that, I need another session, right? I know
Yeah,
there is a
yeah.
politics involved with language English itself, and I did,
Yeah.
I should have, but
Yeah, as you
because of the
already
limitation of
said,
time,
that
ma'am.
power hegemony.
Yeah,
Yeah, the power hegemony is always there.
yeah, ma'am.
That's why, because English always poses to be a powerful language being used by almost 80% of the population in the world. So they don't give so much of importance to the regional languages of different countries. But then the writers, I think, are making a great attempt in showcasing their power in establishing their writing by making it appear almost original rather than the translated work. That's what I.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am. And most importantly,
Yeah.
ma'am, if somebody wants to recognize a translation, okay.
Yeah.
So Bimal
Yeah.
Krishna Matilal in his books writes that word and translation. He writes that if
Yeah.
a translation wants to get recognition, it should
Yeah.
be recognized by the audience and the readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ma'am,
That's true.
nobody can question the recognition Bachchan has received for his
Yeah.
Madhushala or for his
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When Bachchan,
That's.
because it was itself translated into English again by Majorik Bolchan. So that is
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah. He looks at the target audience,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
that's
That
yeah,
is something
that's the
we
job of
should
the
do.
translator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the case.
I think the paper is open for question answer session by the
Ma'am.
participant.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
please take the questions which are there in the chat box, or else we can ask Dr. Indrani, who has posted 2 questions to ask.
Yeah, I think we can start with that. Indrani's question. Can she ask directly or? Yeah.
Yes, everyone is entitled to ask directly. We use only active voice. We don't use passive voice.
Very good afternoon, delegates on the line.
Your voice is not audible. It's breaking. Pushpa ma'am, you can take up her question by the time
Yeah.
she connects.
Am I audible now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
now
ma'am.
you're audible. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Very good evening to esteemed delegates of iSpell group. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a wonderful session. A young professor guest who actually spoke and gave us more info about the writer. And congratulations to iSpell. So my question was this: like most of the time, we always feel that translation is always a duplication of work. So if it is a duplication of work, how is the originality of the original writing could be replaced? Sir, could you please answer to this if possible?
Yeah, ma'am. Sure. Ma'am, there is a very famous phrase, translation haunts. It's by Jack Derrida, No matter how better our translation is, it always is there implied in our mind key. Original would be better. So no matter how much you try, this will always be there. Now, there is always a substitute to this. The thing is that you have to recognize that the translation which has been done is at per and has a similar meaning as per the source language text. Right. For example, ma'am, the context is very important in whichever form a creation is going on, the process of creation is done. For example, ma'am, context here, I mean the form itself, right? Now, suppose, ma'am, if an epic is there, for example, Milton's epic, The Paradise Lost, if somebody tries to translate that text into Hindi or into Bengali or any other regional language, it won't be acceptable for the audience. Why? Because there is no need for translating that text until unless that situation appear. That context was there with John Milton. So context is plays a very important role whenever a translation practice, or rather an activity of translation, is going on. So that is the first case. And the second, ma'am, is that you have to make people aware with the help of your preface, with the help of your afterwards, with the help of the notes, that you are trying your best in order to make the meaning similar to the original. And to help your words, you can take the help of footnotes, as I've told now. So in this way, and the people and the reader, they will also have to give you some space until unless the translation haunts. Right.
Yeah, thank you so much. And well
Yeah.
answered, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, can I butt in?
Yeah, ma'am.
Ish. And
Actually, yeah. Can I?
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
I feel that there cannot be an exact translation.
Yeah.
It cannot be duplication, because there are two things. One is the source language and the other is the target language. So when you start translating from source language to target language, you got to capture the cultural nuances, the spirit of the language, and there are so many nuances. So that cannot be exactly translated. So the translated version may become another text, and it is the recreation of the translator. But however, he can try to be very closer to the original text. And actually, in all the debates that I participated, there is a big question hanging in the air. What is the original? Is there anything original? Which is the original text? That's a big debate. Nobody has been so far been able to arrive at a definite conclusion as to say which is the original.
That is why I quoted Ms. Jack Derrida while saying translation haunts, right? Because language is all about form, right? The thought is all about form. So when you're translating from one language to another, you're transferring from one form to another. So how can be the meaning?
Yeah.
And even in translation, it becomes transcreation.
Yeah.
You even
That's it.
create much better than the original. Like,
Yeah,
for
true.
example, in Harivansh Rai Bachchan's case,
Yeah.
गहन सघन मनमोहन वन तक मुझको आज बुलाते हैं, किंतु किए जो वादे मैंने आज मुझे याद आते हैं, अभी कहाँ आराम बदा यह नेह निमंत्रण चलना है, अरे अभी सोने से पहले मुझको मीलों चलना है, अरे अभी सोने से पहले मुझको मीलों चलना है. And if you read this, for example, you will never imagine these lines have been written by Robert Frost. It will appear as if it has been written in Hindi for the Hindi audience.
Yeah.
And whereas it's the translation of Robert Frost's Stopping by the Wood on a Snowy Evening. So this entirely gives you a kind of an arena wherein you come across, it's not translation, it's the original, and it takes you to the trance and makes you to elate yourself. You enjoy it. The elation is there. In the trance, the elation is there. So if you read, for example, Shivaji Sawant's Mrityunjay in Hindi, you will never ever imagine that it has been written in Marathi, the original one, and the Mrityunjay in Hindi is the translated version. If you ask people, they'll say there is no better book than Mrityunjay. But when you ask the Marathi people, they'll say Mrityunjay in Marathi is much more superior. But for the Hindi people, Mrityunjay is much more superior than the Marathi text. So it happens in that way. It's entirely in the hands of the translator.
The translator is the second creator.
Yeah, he is the real creator.
It all depends on his.
Yeah, thank you.
May I please ask a query, please?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Vivek.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please ask.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
You please ask. Sir.
hello.
I'm waiting for
yeah.
the question. Yes, sir.
When I was in the midst of my PhD research work, which was a comparative study of poetry of Wordsworth, nature poetry, Siddhic poems, nature, I mean, William Wordsworth and Balakavi, not Hindi, Balakavi from Hindi, but Balakavi from Marathi, nature poetry.
Okay.
I had been, once I visited one library in Nagpur, Sitawadi, Nagpur, and there was a Sahitya Academy book. And in that, Mr. M.K. Naik had translated one poem of Balkavis. And that poem, the title of the poem is Shravan Mas. It is about the month of Shravan. And two lines I would quote from Marathi. श्रावण मासी हर्ष मानसी हिरवळ दाटे चोहीकडे क्षणात येते सरसर शिरवे क्षणात फिरुनी ऊन पडे. And then third line, वरती बघता इंद्रधनुचा गोफ दुहेरी विणलासे मंगल तोरण काय बांधिले नभो मंडपी कुणी भासे. वरती बघता इंद्रधनुचा, इंद्रधनुष्य, रेनबो, गोफ दुहेरी विणलासे मंगल तोरण. Now Mr. M.K. Naik has the person of the stature of Mr. Naik, he has translated it wonderfully, no doubt, but he has given a note, and in that note he has said that the particular word Indra Dhanucha Gof and that Mangala Toran, these things could not be exactly translated, and these are the things. So that is, I think, there comes the crux of the matter, because essence from Marathi culture cannot be translated into English. So we may call it transcreation, whatever, but these difficulties are there, and they are faced by people, translators, every now and then. So I feel your opinion, please. Your opinion. Thank you.
The cultural block. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, can I answer your question? I have a different opinion. Okay. What you're saying. So see, you are talking about Marathi text, okay, translated into English. See, sir, Marathi text, Marathi poem which you recited, right? Now, it is there for that particular audience sake. Now, that language, it has its own poetic quality, its own rhetoric, its own prosody. And it is fixed. The images, the image, the metaphors, everything is there as per the context and the language and culture of the Marathi people. Now, English language also have a different imagery, different metaphor, different rhetoric, different prosody, right? Now means we have two separate columns now. On the one hand, we have Marathi poetry skill. On the other hand, we have English. Both are different, but they both have something, right? What I mean to say is that when a poet wants to translate another poet, he should look for this thing. Suppose now I am translating the sonnets of Shakespeare into Hindi, you know. Now, this is the first translation would be available rather.
I see.
Okay, which would be in the poetic form, right? Now, how I am doing so, I will give you my example. The thing is that, sir, what I am doing, Hindi language, it has its own poetry quality. What I am trying to take out the meaning and then trying to put the same meaning in another bottle, in the rhetoric and the poetic style of Hindi itself. Now, what will happen? The sonnets of the Shakespearean sonnet would be available in Hindi, but it will be there for the Hindi speaking audience. It's very sure that English audience are not going to read it, right? Now, in between, if I find any problem with the image or with the metaphor, I will try to replace with the Indian image, which is familiar with the Indian reader. And in this way, a poetry translation is possible. But the only condition is that you will also have to be a poet. And that language should be your mother tongue. Then only can a translation be successful.
Well said.
So this is
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any other questions? There is another question in the chat box, ma'am. Students of English medium schools often drop Hindi as a subject for study after a few years of education. Is it an outcome of some kind of epistemic violence? The question is to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you please repeat once again, sir? Ghanshyam, sir? Can you please?
Yeah. Dr. Reema Chakravarti has posted a question. These days, students from English medium schools often drop Hindi as a subject for study after a few years of education. Is it an outcome of some kind of epistemic violence?
Of course, sir. And it's the parents, first of all, who are responsible for this. Why, sir? You will ask why it is so. If I ask you, how many of you among us do remember Hindu Divas or Bengali Divas? Right? Very few. I hope many of you here, scholars are there, they would be able to answer. But if you ask a child when he's studying and during his kindergarten time, the parent will say, ki, "Are, kya Hindi pad raha hai? Why you are not studying English?" Right? So from very childhood, sir, it's in our mental, psychological, the parents, the teacher, they always say, ki, it's better to understand English than to go with the mother tongue. So it's very obvious that that child, when he will grow up, he will either leave English, Hindi and go for English. It's very on. Now it is up to the parents. If they are able to change the cycle, their own psychology, then only they can make an impact on their child. Right? If a children, if a parent will say, ki, don't study Hindi language, it's better to understand and read English because English is going to give you job. Then what will happen with the child and what will be his thinking for his own mother tongue? So we, the parents, the teacher, we ourselves are responsible for this problem. So this is my point of view as per the question, sir. That is the case.
Yeah. Thank you. Pushpa ma'am, you can take up 2-3 questions are still there in the chat box.
Okay, I'll just say one word about this thing. This is widely there in the whole of India. The regional languages, the mother tongue taking a backseat. And of late, you find a lot of associations of these regional languages coming up to give importance to their own language. So of late, and I think the new education policy encourages regional language study, if I'm right. So I think slowly things are changing, but it's a very slow change, not a great change. But I think in a few years or decades to come, probably things may change.
But ma'am, it's an unprobability because the job market, if you see in the global world, right, you will find that only those people get the job who knows English. Right.
That is there, but English, like it becomes kind of a international language and the language of importance. But along with that, regional languages are also getting a lot of support these days from various organizations.
Yeah, that's true, ma'am.
The question is, how much liberty can a translator take?
Yeah.
How much liberty a translator can take, it depends on the text which he has chosen and the reason for his translation. And third, for whom he is translating. These are the three reasons. If a translator is able to answer himself, then he can take liberty as per his wish.
Okay. And what are the challenges you encountered as a translator?
Definitely. So the challenge, okay, if when I am translating from English to Hindi, Hindi is my mother tongue. So when I'm translating, the first challenge is for me the syntax itself. So English, the language, the syntax for English is SVO, subject, verb, object, right? And in Hindi we have SOV, subject, object, verb, right? So this was the first challenge I faced as a translator. The second thing was the importance of meanings, right? Ki a text, a language, it has its own context, it has its own words, vocabulary, lexical item. Now, how to challenge those, how to translate those into, so I have to look for similes which has the similar meaning in order to those. And the third, when I'm translating Shakespeare, I first and the most important thing and the problematic thing I faced was with that of slangs, ma'am. Slang translation is the most difficult task. Now, when I began to translate and do research, I found that translation of slangs is really difficult. So you have to know too much of slangs in that way. And then you have to incorporate your slangs, which are available in your language, or you give a literal translation of these things. So literal translation is a way out if you have any problem, but that is not the solution. The best solution for a translation in order to overcome the challenges is that he should look for a similar meaning or an image which will help you to understand and complete the whole texture. So these are the things I found with my translation.
Yeah, there is another question by Dr. Kirti Tiwari. She says, when a writer translates his own work like Tagore or Carnad, he has the liberty to improve and create.
Yes.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's true, because he is both a creator and a translator. And most importantly, sir, when he is creating, he is actually translating his own thought first. So it's all about the thought process. Now, if somebody goes with the translations of Gitanjali by Tagore, it happens that, and it is true enough, and the scholar says that the Bengali works of Tagore is much more superior than his English translation, as one can find in Gitanjali. Whereas if one goes through the translation of Girish Karnad, okay, one will find a totally different composer. What is there? In English translation, his English translation has become much more popular than his Kannada one, because it has a more broader reader than the original. So these are the two different markers for a translation. That is the case. And Googie in his book Translation Theory and Practice gives a very important message for this kinds of question, and he says that one can take a Bible translation for it. How when a Bible is translated, it all depends on the culture and the context in which a translation is happening. Right? So one can refer to that part itself, sir, for more detail.
Professor Ghanshyam, sir.
Yes, sir.
Could we have the privilege of any of the sonnets from Shakespeare translated by Manish sir as an example, or if offhand, if he is able to give, for example, let me not to the marriage of true minds, etc. It will be, I mean, it will enrich this discussion.
You have it, Manish?
Sir, actually, I have not bought my translations with me. Okay. So
next time, please. This is my farmaish. This is my farmaish. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, sir. Sure. I will try to.
We will definitely undertake your farmaish in a very firm way.
I would be blessed, sir, for this.
Yeah. Any other questions from the participants? Any other comments? Not only questions, it could be a kind of a discussion also. Yeah, please. If no one is there, then Pushpa ma'am, you can ask the chairperson for the chairperson's remark.
Okay. Before I ask the chairperson, I would also like to say that the budding writer and the translator who's taken it up so seriously and has gone into the world of translation, there is a lot more of study that he needs to do also, and I wish him all the very best. It's a very challenging task, and I hope he will also come out with wonderful translations.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. With all your blessings, I would definitely try to do it,
ma'am. That we would be able to go through. And, in your presentation, you started here. That's something really wonderful and great that he's done. And I think this has really inspired all the participants to really look into it. Most of us have not really studied deeply these aspects. So I think this is a kind of a motivational talk or motivational presentation that would help people to take a relook at all this and then study or know the nuances and the difficulties of translation, and also to find out what are the different methods of translation and how to go about it and things of that kind. So it was quite motivational and inspirational. I thank you. And now I request Mr. Dangli to take over and give your bit of your mind to this program.
Ma'am, please invite the chairperson for a chairperson's remark.
Oh, no. Okay, I think it's Madam Madhu Kamri. I request you to take over and give your overall perspective on this present topic, post-colonial translation and theory of translation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah.
At the outset, I acknowledge with appreciation the opportunity which is provided to me by iSpell India to chair such a valuable forum where we have such eminent peers and scholars and a resource person who is of a very young age, but has a wonderful body of information to share with us. To begin with, my appreciation to Manish Prasad for adding valuable insights to post-colonial translation studies. And I would also like to add here that I had read 2 of your articles on Google, and one that I can recall very well is the write-up that you have given for the translation that I think by this time you must have completed of Macbeth.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, this writing also, which is as one of the chapters of the book. And because memory does not serve me right now, I'm not able to recall the title of that book. So very happy that I'm able to hear you virtually and see you also. Coming to translation studies, you find that it has evolved highly in the last few years, and this affirms how pertinent and intellectually wholesome has been the theme for today's discussion, and how vivacious the presentation was by Mr. Manish Prasad. Now, the study of Bachchan asserts the opinion that language is not a neutral tool in the process of translation. Language is very important, and the process of translation is not merely a technical activity, where I would also like to add here that in the earlier chapter of the book that I just now mentioned, Manish happens to make a mention that Harivansh Rai Bachchan first concentrated on the meter that he would take up for the translation.
Yeah.
So the structure and measure of the skill of the translator, for this we need to have theories, and theories that should come out from India, of Indian origin, because we keep on contributing a rich wealth through the vernaculars and the body that comes out in English also. So this way you'll find that we need theory. And if you look into what Sujit Mukherjee says in his book, Translation as Discovery, which first appeared in 1981. And later there was another book by him, which appeared posthumously, that is by the title Translation as Recovery, which appeared in 2004. He cries out the plight of this deficiency, and he says that what we don't have in India is a theory, or the theories of translation. And then, you know, he goes out to give the answer for this, and he says that we have been practicing translation for so many years, so many centuries, that we have forgot to stop and theorize. So this is the reason why you find that we have moved, from translation as art to translation as craft, especially when it comes to the urge of a translation, for the urge of a translator to have what is called homogenization, or rather the, I would say, a less intent of being projected as the maker of the target text. So again, if I come back to Sujit Mukherjee, you'll find that translation as craft is more focused on what should be the structure, what should be the mode, what should be the pattern, what should be the form. And as far as art is concerned, you'll find that it is concerned more with the soul of it, more with the appeal of it, more with the essence of it. And this is how you'll find that translation makes a lot of a difference. Now, translation for a larger period has also been secondary. That is why you'll find that it still doesn't stand much recognized in the sense that you don't have many awards, as Manish just now made a mention of it, that even at the Nobel Prize platform, we don't have the jury who can understand any other language except for English. So this is one of the reasons that we don't have appreciation, laurels for good translation that comes our way. It is also to be seen that translation has always stood second, and it always follows the source text. It always comes after the source text. It is never the other way around. And at the same time, the text which is so created, or the text which is so transcreated, you'll find that it is always labeled as ancillary or a derivative. It is not acknowledged as a complete entity of creation. Now, coming to what Lawrence Venuti talks about in the book that Mr. Prasad also mentioned, that is the scandal of translation, which I remember appeared sometimes, after 2006, I believe. I'm not very sure of the date. And there you'll find that he talks about a kind of a trait which is very popular in the body of translation, and that he calls it as minoritizing translation. That is, some of the translations are regarded as minor, and there are some translations which are regarded as microcosmopolitan. So this way, the source text and the target text, you'll find that they are always upheld as separate entities, and there is no meeting point. They do not intersect. They do not meet at one place. Or you don't find that you are told that you need to read this translation because it adds more value to the source text. Then you also find that when you look into post-colonial translation studies in India, if we go back into the ancient days, you'll find that Sanskrit was easily translated for the people who were fairly educated or not well educated, but they used to participate in discourses where they wanted, wisdom to enrich how to live a better life and how to shape up the four purusharthas which are mentioned in our holy texts. Now, when the Britishers had come, the stance was totally different. You'll find that the Manusmritis were first translated. And if you look into what DV says, that it was done primarily to obliterate the richness of our ancient days, the wisdom, the impeccable wisdom for a good life, for the essence of humanity, for the transcendental approach to goodness all around. You find that they wanted to obliterate it. So that is the reason why the Manusmritis were first translated. Now, coming to one particular instance, where I find that what is the mindset of a translator and what is the mindset of the creator of the source text when they both come face to face. I would here like to recall the instance of Mahashweta Devi, who was introduced to the Western world by the translations that was made by Spivak. And when she was given the Gyanpith Award, Mahashweta Devi, you find that she applauded the National Book Trust for making the book, for making the writing available to the readers. So here you'll find that the the content was translated, that the content was transported, that the content was brought to the threshold of bookstores in India is something that Mahashweta Devi counted, and Spivak was then given a backseat. Likewise, I would also like to talk about a very recent instance where you find that someone by the name of, I believe, Anita Gopalan, she got pen translation fund grant from America. And when she was asked, because she is going to translate a Sim Sim, this is, I think, by this time, this task must be completed. And because this is something that I'm recalling from my memory, I'm not able to place the exact happenings in the time period. But then it was sometimes around 2016 that she got this prize. And when she was interviewed, because she was translating, as I told you, Sim Sim by Geet Chaturvedi, and she was asked how this process of translation takes place. She gave a very interesting comment to it. And she said that it is just like, par kaya pravesh. That is, she says, first the soul goes out and meets the text, which has to be translated. And then the soul again comes back to the translator, and then the creativity begins. So this is very well explained by her. And she says that that translation is now being recognized. I think, in years to come, it would have a good momentum. Now, translation at the same time, you find also adds newness to what already you have read. When it is made in a kind of an adaptation, or you find that with some variations, created again. For example, I remember, again, I'm not able to recall the name of the playwright. It's way back that I had read it, and it had appeared in Indian English journal, which comes from Sahitya Academy, where you find that a Kannada playwright had rewritten Macbeth. And the entire story goes well until the close, where you find that Lady Macbeth, she gives birth to the child, and the child becomes the cause of the suicide. So this is how the play comes to an end. Now, when you read Macbeth, the Shakespearean version, and when you read this transcreated one with a landmark variation, with a noticeable variation and a memorable variation, you'll find that the pleasure of the source text and the target text, you'll find that it enhances, it becomes better. Now, coming to the close of it, I would just like to add something that when it comes to translation, it is very important that where the translation takes place, from or into the language of the colonizer, or the language of the languages which are surrounding the country, that is cultural changes, or you can say that it could be intra-language or inter-language or intersemiotic, as Jacobson says. And then it is also important to see that who is doing the translation, what is his stand, and what is the need, who is the target readers for it. And see, whenever a book is translated, either it gets an afterlife or it gets a new life, either of the two. So it is very important as to what kind of translation is given. For example, as I talked about this Kannada play, you'll find that it gets a new life. It's not that we don't accept with the closure of Macbeth. We accept that. But then this is something is more closer to the Indian culture, because we find that if at all it is your soul which kills you, if your pangs make you cannibal, then your ruin is certain, and that is more disastrous. So on this note, again, I give my thanks to Manish for making such a wonderful debate here. And at the same time, I would also say that the presentation was perfectly structured, and the deliberation, as I told you, it was riveting, and it was well with the need, the intent, the content, and the mode of the expanse of translations which are made by Bachchan. And at the same time, you're telling slides and expansive details. They made a wonderful learning of Harivansh Rai Bachchan. And before I end, I would also like to remind you of what Robert John Meehan, who is the voice of American educator, has said, that the best collaborative time is spent talking about learning and not about talking about teaching. So this way, my greetings and my salutations to iSpell for making this day so profitable when the times are so unsettling. And iSpell is giving us the motivation to remain energized mentally and to contribute in a collaborative manner. And once again, big thanks. Thanks, Manish, and my greetings for a bright career and many milestones you may achieve in days to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, Pushpa ma'am.
Yeah.
Now it's over to Yamini.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Manish, sir, for such a bright, enlightening, and such an interesting topic you have delivered today. It's like we have known Dr. Harivansh Rai Bachchan as a Hindi, related to Hindi literature. Now, after this session, we are going to know a lot more, and you have inspired, or you have tempted it, like me, tempted us to go through Bachchan sir, to read out his writings in English. So very interesting, sir. Kamra ma'am, it's your comments highly going to inspire us all, to everyone. And I would thank each and everyone who are present here and who have shared their comments. We have got this chat box was flooded with the interesting and wonderful session and comments that we have seen, which proves this session was so successful. Thank you all. Thank you, Kohoma ma'am.
Before the formal thanks, Yamini, kindly ask Pramod to share the certificates. Then we'll go for the formal thanks.
Okay, sir. I'm sorry. I would request Pramod, sir. Pramod, sir, please, over to you for the certificate distribution, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Manish, indeed, it's a great opportunity to listen to you on the platform of iSpell. And the way you have brought Harivansh Rai Bachchan on the platform of iSpell, we do hope Firaq Gorakhpuri will also be there sometime later, because these two literary giants, those who have excelled in the field of Hindi and Urdu poetry, are really the teachers of English. And English has a very good command and very good people are there in English, and also they have dealt very well in Hindi also. So this talk of yours is going to ignite the young minds, and for this is a small token from iSpell, and this is just a certificate of appreciation. What we can do for you is just share our love and blessings and even the best wishes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I would like to come once more so that I can elaborate more on other topics.
Yeah,
which I have yet to cover.
Thank you, thank you. And always chairperson's remark is a cherry on the cake. And as far as the name goes, Madhu ma'am, you have really put the Madhu onto the cake, and it has really made it more wonderful, more palatable, and sweet also. So on this Sunday satsang, you have given a very good satsang of the translation theory, and you have brought all the Western authors also onto the platform of iSpell. So indeed, we enjoyed a lot. Thank you very much for being the chairperson. And this is a small token from iSpell to you.
Sir, I'd like also to add into it. Yes, I would also like to add into it Dr. Madhu Kamre, the professor of stylistics, has beautifully zeroed in on the process of translation. I really thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful deliberation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I thank
this certificate goes to Dr. A.S. Puvamma for being the master of ceremonies and who has taken us right from the beginning to the end of the journey, like Prospero and Ariel, wherein the beautiful, amicable atmosphere was created for wonderful sailing. So this certificate goes to Dr. A.S. Puvamma. Last but not the least,
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Wonderful.
We have this certificate of Yamini Devangan, who has moderated the entire event. Though in the beginning she said, "I'm nervous," but nervousness is very good to start with, because मिट्टी की काया है और मिट्टी तो कभी सूखती है तो उसमें दरार तो जरूर आती है, लेकिन उन दरारों में यदि सोने को भर दिया जाए तो वो मिट्टी बड़ी खूबसूरत हो जाती है. तो आपने सोने पे सुहागा का काम किया है. So this certificate goes to you. And another certificate is there, which is due, because the entire month of May was full of literary events, and the event coordinator for the entire month is Pramod M. Dhengle, who is also the technical head of iSpell, who creates the flyer of iSpell, who creates entire thing. Even the recording of iSpell is being done by Pramod Dhengle. So this certificate goes to Mr. Pramod Dhengle. Really,
thank you, sir.
We are honored to have you in iSpell, Mr. Pramod, and we need your support, and we will definitely make a great literary change in the literary arena in the days to come. So thank you very much,
sir.
Pramod.
I'm so lucky for being part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Over to Yamini.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for certificate of appreciation, and thank you all learned delegates who are present here for joining us in today's session. We appreciate you all for being here. We will be meeting again in our upcoming webinar with the heart-touching, thought-provoking topics. See, my nervousness is now in my words and mouth, I can say. Actually, the scenario is not supporting us to provide some circumstances. I lost one of my friend. I got news 2 hours before. So something is not going well between all us. All the people are suffering from this. Therefore, something is not going well between me. But still, I tried, and I said earlier also, in this such critical situation, this iSpell is trying to give a smile or making us a reason to survive, because this whole of the month of April, we day by day, every Sunday, we have got new topics to discuss, new topics to learn about, new people to meet about in this critical situation. And in the coming month also, we are going to meet many new learned keynote speakers, chairpersons, and master of ceremonies and moderator, just because of co-founder and General Secretary Ghanshyam sir and Pramod sir. Thank you so much for giving us this virtual platform to get together with each other, to connect virtually, though virtually, but still now we have learned so much and joined as one family. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Ghanshyam sir. Over to you, sir.
Cell phone number of Manish sir, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir, my phone number is 6297.
Pardon?
6297.
6297, yes.
639.
639.
906.
906. 6297 639 906.
So, and this is my calling number, and my WhatsApp number is something else. It is
no, WhatsApp number. WhatsApp.
Okay, 7679.
7679
3937
3937
64.
767 7679 393764.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to each and everyone. Thank you, Ms. Yamini. Thank you, Dr. Puvamma. Thank you, Madhu Kamra ma'am. Thank you, Manish Prasad, and thank you all those who have joined us even during the critical times. And we do request you to keep yourself absolutely safe, stay at home, and keep your nears and dears in your heart and mind, and do call them, do inquire about them, do take good care of yourself and your family members. The time is critical, but we should have a hope, because hope is the only thing which can give us immense scope. So stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you very much. We'll meet on the next Sunday. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.